Greetings, students. We're going to try here to give you a full view of free writing. So here's the first page. If you were to open the free writing document, this is what you see. What free writes are is they're a form of pre-writing. This is a way that we generate ideas. There are actually a lot of these different types of pre-writing strategies. Before we get started, let's show you where you can find this. So if you're here, right, you're on the home page, go to modules. You could also probably find this under files, but I find this to be the clearest way to find things that I want. So we go to modules. FYI, that's how most instructors will view their pages. And if you go to week 5 or so past, if you go past week 5, you're gonna be at the free writes. So you see there are weeks, and for the first 5 weeks there are projects associated with each week. If we go right past that, just the very next thing, you're going to find your free writes. And we're looking at these two top documents right here, free writes for the term, free write handout. We're at the terms. So if you were to look there, download this document here, that's going to bring you right here. So this is page 2. Well, that's page 1. It'll bring you right here to page 2 if you go to page 2. So what we're looking at here is we're looking to generate ideas, and the very nature, we'll get into that in a second. All right, so types of pre-writing, there are several different types. Best advice is to just use whatever works for you. I like free writing. I also happen to very much like outlining and brainstorming. I use outlining all the time, to be honest. That's my fail-safe. I'll use outlining. But I do find free writing to be very freeing and very fun, if not very easy. The whole idea of free writing is that you're going to write for 10 to 15 minutes on a given topic. And we're going to do what we call, or what is called, a focused free write in this class, where I'm going to give you the topic. And that's basically all that you need to know about it. This goes over other types of free writing, or other types of pre-writing there. If we go to the handout, all right, I'll leave it like that. If we go to the handout, you'll see that the primary purpose of a free write in general is to help us get over any fear we have of starting papers and getting prompts and not knowing where to get started. The idea of the free write is that you, in a few minutes, you're given a prompt, like a concept, and then you generate some ideas. And it's low stress and low risk. The points are accumulated over the semester. You get points for doing the assignment. I will not as much judge you on, say, the quality of your free write, and the reason is because, as it says here, the distinct purpose of a free write is to create a volume of material that you are writing. So the idea is to write freely, kind of hence the name, right? But what we won't do on a free write is judge you so much on, is every sentence, worth its weight in gold, right? That's more of something we think about when we look at your essays, and we look at writing for an essay. You're writing with the idea of economy and efficiency and clarity, right? And you have time to revise. That is not the case with a free write, and we know any instructor knows that. So I'm certainly not looking at these looking for a polished, revised, perfect paragraph or page. That's about how long these should be. A free write should be between 1/2 page and 1 full page. The idea is to write fast. If you have any writing shortcuts that help you write faster. The idea is efficiency as far as writing quickly on a free write, which is different from an essay. The whole purpose of this is just to, as we said, just to generate ideas. And a lot of times, like, just to see if you have something, right? To see if you have an idea worth developing into an essay. One of the things I love most about the free write is that the purpose of it is to allow yourself to write freely without worrying so much about, is everything correct? On an essay, that's of course a that's a bigger picture concern. You have to look at that, especially at the end when you're looking at editing and revising your essays. With a free write, it's more about generating ideas, and you're not as much worried about, is everything grammatically correct? Am I using MLA format? You don't have to worry about these things. The free write should be readable and decipherable to you. And it gives you some other examples there. If you look at the free write handout, it has some good information on there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the free writes themselves. So if you are on page 7, actually here, let's start here. You got page 7. So if you go to the free write document here, sorry, let's go to back to the Canvas page. So if you're hitting this document right here, that is for the free writes themselves. The handout that we just looked at is right there, right? So if you're clicking on that top one there, brings you here. Go to page 7, which is here, right? So if you then look through this and say, okay, so for the free writes, you're doing page 7 through page 31. Okay, so that's it as far as what to do and how much to cover. That's it right there. Page 7 to page 31. And with each of these, you'll note, like say on this one, for example, on page 30, that there's an idea or a concept typically tied to someone at least relatively well known, and then there's a discussion question. So you want the free write to respond to the question. That's what you're doing in the free write. You're taking in the quote here as like a concept. Like, I was working on the proof of one of my poems all the morning, and I took out a comma. In the afternoon, I put it back again. And what I tell my students about this one that really interests me is that you have a writer at the peak of their powers and abilities, spending what seems to be, by this description, like 3 or 4 hours deciding on a comma. Imagine putting, like, why would someone put that much time and effort and thought into a single comma, right? There must be a reason. And that's what brings me to the prompt here. I start thinking about, well, what do commas do, right? What is their purpose and what is their overall function? This is stuff that you'll be best apt to handle after you've read the grammar lecture. So let's say this is a week, if we're starting at the beginning, our first piece here is going to relate directly to our essay 1, which is a photo essay. Sorry, I still have the old picture here. This used to be a different prompt. I haven't changed the picture yet. It's well enough. I mean, the first essay was a narrative essay. But anyway, the picture. Don't worry about the picture so much here. What you want to focus on is the idea. So in our first free write, we want to narrate and describe your pandemic experience. Let's look at the next one. We'll come back to that first one in a second. Excuse me. Let's see how we're doing for time here. Okay. All right, the second one is a quote from William Faulkner. It says, a writer needs 3 things: experience, observation, and imagination. And with this one, we're going to say, okay, let's assume that those are solid points. Like, so let's say that those 3 are a good beginning to our list of what a writer needs. What else could we add to that list? Or what else should we add to that list to make it more complete? And you'll see in Free Write 2, this is number 2, this one is really going to end up being rather listy, and that's okay. You can write it in a list form, paragraph form. Either way, do try to make it about half a page. When you're writing it out. This is the last free write for essay 1. And it's basically a revision prompt. Now, this great quote by Robbins. Sorry, I just noticed that they took away the timer. I was able to keep track of time this whole time, and now the timing has disappeared. It's extremely helpful. Um, so you can read this great quote here, and then look at the prompt. The prompt is asking you to make a T chart. A T chart basically looks like that. You've got a little lowercase t. On one side, you've got one idea. On one side, you got the other idea, and they're usually used for like comparison contrast. In this case, we're going to write on one side of the column. You're going to write down. These are all the things that I like about my essay. This is what's doing. This is what's going well. And then in the other column, you're going to write. These are the things I want to work on. I should work on this, this, this. This one's pretty self-explanatory and straightforward. You're going to Singer gives you a couple questions here. We're just going to answer the questions. All right. So, but you can sort of get the pattern here. This one gives you a quote, and then you're asked to analyze and dissect the quote. Look at all 4 phrases or ideas that are in blue and break these down, and ask yourself why it would be useful for an argument to be round and solid as a ball. Like, what does that exactly mean? Like, precisely. This one requires you to do a reading. That reading is on our Canvas page under free writes. And once you look at that, you're going to want to go ahead and look. It's going to give you 11 causes of poverty, and you're going to want to analyze them. Like, do you agree with this? Do you agree with that this is a major cause of poverty? What do you agree with or disagree with specifically, or find as a weak or strong point about this whole idea? All right. And then with this one, we're going to watch a scene. There's a scene from Up, which is linked up to our Canvas page. And there you sort of start to get how these are done. You get into the visual section. These are based on visual texts. This one's based on a chapter from a graphic novel. These are based on speeches. We're going to either read or watch. You could do either or both. All right, so I don't have much time left, but let me go ahead and take a minute here and look at number 7, the first one, which is on page 7. Like I said, I don't know how much time is left because the timer disappeared, which is ultimately very convenient, right? So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to do a little free write for you here. We don't have a lot of time, but narrate and describe my pandemic experience. Okay. Okay, so this is going along okay. Like I said, I'm not sure how much time is left, so it's just going to cut it off at some point. I'm just going to go ahead and continue to write here.